All right, and welcome to The Balance, the first of our Saturday drops. We are kicking things off with some IndyCar talk. That's right, IndyCar is back on the track. St. Pete happened last week. They're in Phoenix this week, sharing the track with NASCAR. That's always fun. They did that here in Indianapolis, where we're located high atop the Balance Studios in Indianapolis. So we got Derek Vance. From the Push Pass podcast is going to step in and talk some IndyCar with us today. Um, and we're going to break down, really one of the most unique race weekends as well. I mean, we're going to get into more of the NASCAR side of things tomorrow, and we talk with Steve Wilson of Speedway Digest. But we've got, David Malukas on the pole today. We got a recap from St. Pete. So let's just dive right into Derek Vance from the Push Pass podcast. How are you, sir? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you, Tom. Hopefully, maybe we can get some better weather here in
Yes, sir.
Central
Man,
Indiana because we're tired of the rain. Hopefully it goes away by May. But yeah, hopefully things start to turn for the better.
I saw a stat that Indianapolis, or Central Indiana, where we're at, has gotten more rain in the last week than, like, I think it was Seattle or Portland that it got all last year. So it's one of those cities that it rains a lot on. So you've gotten a lot of rain. And my backyard is a lagoon. So yes, I am ready for. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We had a nice day yesterday, so let's go. Let's get into it. Well, let's talk about last week. Certainly a recap of Alex Palou dominating. Well, Dixon, Power, Schumacher all struggle. I'm not really surprised too much about Schumacher, just because he's new and he's still getting used to the way things are. But let's break down what as you always say with Alex Palou being Mr. Consistent. But here we go. He's not missed a beat in the off season, and he totally dominated. But let's talk about a recap with St. Pete, sir.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Alex Palou kind of left off where picked up where he left off in 2025. Obviously, strategy played a big part in him being able to overtake uh, Scott McLaughlin for the win this past Sunday, making it back-to-back wins at St. Petersburg. And then you mentioned, Will Power and Scott Dixon, not the starts that they were hoping for, especially Will Power due to him switching over to a new team. And I felt him moving to Andretti Global would be a good move for him, especially the way Andretti Global their packages fit road courses, and I thought that was going to help Will Power out tremendously. But obviously, he didn't get off to the start he wanted to. Scott Dixon, literally the wheels falling off. That's got to be a tough start for him. I'm sure he'll find his way today at Phoenix, and then Mick Schumacher. What a terrible start for him. Obviously, he wanted to get some laps under his belt, being new in IndyCar, and then being taken out there in lap number one.
Well, Alex Palou is a dominating figure. Uh, let's talk about Alex Palou going into 2026 season here. I mean, he has all the ingredients to be one of the greatest IndyCar drivers of all time. Alex Palou is becoming a household name for IndyCar fans and non-IndyCar fans. So Chip Ganassi, you might want to say maybe he's got himself he's found the diamond in the rough, but not really. I mean, because there's been some rough times for Alex Palou, and he's kind of worked up through the ranks. The thing is, a lot of people they don't pay attention to a driver until they're getting a lot of national media because they're getting wins or whatever. But Alex Palou has had a good career and he's earned his ways where he's at now. But he's on track and he's on trend to win another Indianapolis 500, a championship. I know we're way early in the season and there's a lot of other drivers. But what are your thoughts about Alex Palou?
Well, it's interesting that you bring him up because earlier in the week, I actually did an article on him you can find over at yournews.com. And Tom, I don't know if you know this or not, but when Alex Palou broke through in IndyCar, can you name the team that he started with first before he went to Chip Ganassi Racing?
The team. Was he with? Hmm, was he with? Uh, you know what? I don't know.
Alex Palou's rookie year, he was with Dale Coyne Racing. Believe that or
Dale
not.
Coyne Racing. Okay, I knew that. I knew it was one that we don't talk a lot about. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Go ahead.
And just flipping back through the article that I wrote this past week, this is how dominant Alex Palou has been since he started in 2021. Obviously, he is a four-time IndyCar champion, 21, 23, 24, 25. And his three consecutive championships, if you don't know, places him in elite company. There's only one other driver in the modern era that has won three straight titles, and that is Dario Franchitti. And funny enough, that was with Chip Ganassi Racing as well. Today, Alex Palou is going to start his 100th race. So out of 99 career starts, Alex Palou has won 20 of those races out of those 99 career starts. 8 wins last year, as we touched on. That's the most successful IndyCar season over 50 years.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. That's crazy, and he's great. He's great. But at the same time, back to reality. Here we go. We'll go out to Phoenix, and I think on Friday, he really is he's still immortal. If you know, a four-time IndyCar Series champion, parts 10th for Saturday's good race range, and he had problems on the track. He was not able to do anything. He had problems recovering. They struggled a lot in practice. And the qualifying results prove that. And is he still on? I mean, yes, he's one of the fastest on the track. And but the last time Alex Palou started outside the top 10 was in 2024. It's in the season finale at Nashville, the Nashville Super Speedway. Last season, where he captured his fourth title in 5 years, he qualified ninth or better on all of these 17 races. So, as much as we like to say, hey, Alex Palou, you're one of the greatest drivers of all time, and he is, but then we look at what happened on Friday in qualifying, and we realize he's still very much human. But I don't know that we're that worried about where he's starting at. Go ahead.
yeah, I wouldn't worry where he's starting at. I mean, you think about what you just laid out there, where you have a driver that struggled in qualifying, struggled in practice, and they still qualify in the top 10. I mean, that's yeoman's work for Alex Palou. I think he's got a good shot today to win. Obviously, you touched on it at the beginning of the show there. David Malukas, who has been fast in practice one on Friday morning, obviously grabbed the pole yesterday afternoon, so he's got to be a favorite. I think there's some surprises. Just looking down the starting grid, we wondered how Team Penske would bounce back. Well, Malukas is on pole. His teammate Joseph Newgarden's right behind him, and then Scott McLaughlin is starting fifth. I think you have to your eyebrows have to raise a little bit for who's 3 and 4 there in row two. Graham Rahal, what a starting position for him, and then Mick Schumacher, who had a awful race weekend last weekend, as we just touched on. He's fourth. Also, give a little credit to Arrow McLaren. You have Pato Award in seventh. He's trying to recover from last week. Nolan Siegel, who maybe on the outs potentially at Arrow McLaren. It's kind of a what have you done for me lately? He's ninth, and then rounding out the top 10 is Alex Palou. So a lot of newcomers. A lot of different names up there in the starting grid for today. So I think today's race very interesting. They haven't raced in Phoenix since 2018. I think if memory serves me correct, I think that was Joseph Newgarden who won that race. So very interesting to tune in today at 3 o'clock on Fox.
Yeah, absolutely. And David Malukas, he earns his first pole ever. So it's really going to be interesting to see that. And then this is going to be the race. And I know everybody. See, we look at these pedigrees, and we like Schumacher is who I'm referring to. But Andretti's insert pedigree name here. We look at you know we look at Marco, for example, for how many years did we wait to put him the crown, the next heir apparent to the next Andretti, and it never happened for him. So maybe we're a little bit with Schumacher, Mick Schumacher. Maybe we're a little like, okay, we know who his dad was. Obviously, one of the greatest Formula One open wheel drivers of all time. Certainly, he had one of the worst accidents ever, that just, really he never came back from. But now they look for Schumacher, the young Schumacher, to step in, and we think, okay, now he's with IndyCar, and we saw, okay, well, a little bit of disappointment in St. Pete, but now we look at what he's been able to do in practice and qualifying here in Phoenix, and he has all. I mean, he has all the markings to make it have a really good race. And for this to be his opening race, if you will, his opening ceremony, if you will, to IndyCar, and we can continue the conversation that Mick Schumacher is in real deal his dad in his dad's spirit, if that makes sense.
Well, I think Tom, I think that can go really across the board, not only in racing. You think NASCAR, and there's one father son duo that comes to mind that the son didn't quite live up to the bar that his dad said. And I think there's a lot of that in professional sports in general. You think one example, the NFL, where you see what kind of receiver Jerry Rice was in his heyday, and his son that came through went to USC, and you really didn't hear much about him in the NFL. So definitely a lot of expectations that when a father is great at a sport, racing, NFL, whatever, and then his son comes along, and those expectations seem like they want to raise the bar a little bit, and sometimes the son does fall a little short, but I think Mick's going to be a great driver. He has won not even a full race under his belt, so that's going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on today at 3 o'clock, is how Mick adapts to ovals in IndyCar. And then also something just in general, I love that IndyCar has set up an oval race before the 500. Normally their schedule, Tom, if you look back on it, outside of when they race at Texas, there's not an oval race until we get to the month of May. So definitely I like that that IndyCar has mixed that in a little bit, and this is the first oval race. We don't have to wait until the month of May for that to happen.
Well, we be remiss if we don't talk about that huge, mammoth, scary wreck with Felix Rosenquist as he was in practice on Friday, and he just slammed into the wall as he's practicing for the Good Ranchers 250 at Phoenix. A 34-year-old Swedish native was rolling around the 1 mile oval in his number 60 mile shank racing Honda, and it snapped midway through the corner of turn 3 and backed hard into the outside of the wall, and he had logged 6 laps with the best of being 167.250 prior to the incident, which happened roughly 20 minutes into the 1 hour session, and brought out the red flag. Fortunately, he was able to get out of the wreck car on his own power, and was seen released from the IndyCar medical unit. So thankful for that, because that was a pretty scary scene. I don't know if you've seen the video of that, but unfortunately, he does start at the rear. And I don't know that we were looking for a lot of high production from Felix Rosenqvist in this particular race, but still, anytime you see a scary wreck like that, you go, oh, and then you go, oh, good, okay, I'm glad he's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was able to see the video that IndyCar provided on their YouTube channel from that crash, and yeah, glad to see Felix able to walk away and was able to get cleared from the medical center there at Phoenix. But I think the bigger picture on this, Tom, is this is another example. And again, you hate to see this, obviously, especially at the speeds on a 1 mile oval at Phoenix that you're going to, that they're traveling at. But this, it just speaks volumes of not only the safety that IndyCar has put into their machines, but also the safety innovations that Delara has been able to build for these machines as well. So definitely glad to see Felix walk away unharmed from this. Yeah, it does stink that he's got to start from the back of the pack, because I think Meyer Shank, I think their oval program, I think, is coming along. You know, it started obviously a few years ago with Elio being able to pick up his fourth Indy 500 victory. But yeah, they're a team, especially when it comes on the ovals. The two drivers that they have, their oval program is picking up speed. But yeah, definitely a little bit of a setback. But Felix, he'll find his way through. Obviously, it's going to be in a backup car with very little time in it, but he'll get things figured out, and hopefully, he's able to keep his nose clean and maybe find his way to the front today.
All right, well, let's bounce around the league a little bit and just touch on some touch points. There's been a lot of a wide range of speculation surrounding the future of Marcus Ericsson and Andretti Global beyond 2026. And, Andretti's new boss, Ron Perwinski, says, I don't think anything's a given on Marcus Ericsson's future. And, he's 35 years old, is in the last year of his current deal with Andretti Global, and has one podium, five top fives, 11 top tens over his last 35 starts. He joined the team ahead of the 2024 season after the previous seasons with Chip Ganassi, where he earned 4 wins, including the 2022 Indianapolis 500. And finished sixth in the championship 3 times. So I mean, I think that in the midst, this is the other Swedish guy that's out there. I think in the midst of his clouded future with Andretti Global, he's going to end up somewhere. And we don't know what his future holds with Andretti. Personally think Andretti tries to figure out a way to make a deal work with him, but there is that possibility that as we go into the funny season, yes, we got a whole season ahead of us yet, so we don't want to put the cart too far before the horse, if you will, or the horse before the cart, however that saying goes. But it is something that we're watching and taking a look at. Marcus Ericsson, his future at Andretti. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's definitely in what the other professional sports say is a contract season. Obviously, he's on his last year of his deal with Andretti Global. Good start last week in St. Petersburg. I'm sure he's going to try to obviously follow it up today in Phoenix. But yeah, there's a lot of a cloud of certainty that is following Marcus Ericsson around. Again, it's one of those things. What have you done for me lately since signing with Andretti Global? I mean, there's nothing really you can write home about. So this season is definitely going to depend. Marcus Ericsson's success this season is going to depend on will shape his future at Andretti Global or somewhere else in 2027.
Let's also talk about the other Chip Ganassi racer, and that's Scott Dixon, the Iceman. Man, he had just a terrible St. Pete. He lost, like you mentioned earlier, he lost a wheel and really lost his chance to win there in St. Pete. And of course, certainly one of the greatest drivers of all time. He'll bounce back. He'll have a good season. But it's always unfortunate, and he's from New Zealand. I like Scott Dixon. I talk to him a lot. I get a chance to talk to him every single year, and he's just such a great person to talk with. And I really enjoyed following his career over the years. And the father time stops for nobody, and he's may have a few more years left in him, but I think we're on the back end of Scott Dixon's career. So it would be great to see him win another 500 or see him win another championship. But what are your thoughts as we look into 2026 about Scott Dixon, the Iceman?
I think you bring up a great point that you can't outrun and you can't defeat you can't defeat Mother Nature and you can't defeat Father Time. And I do believe that Scott Dixon is on the back half, as they say, of his career. But I also feel that he'll be able to find a ride with Chip Ganassi as long as Scott Dixon wants to.
Yeah.
His accomplishments and awards speak for themselves. I think he's still got a little bit more to give to Chip Ganassi Racing, but
Yeah.
I think he's there. He's going to be a lifetimer until Scott decides it's
Oh, yeah.
time to hang him up.
He's going to be the Rick Mears of Chip Ganassi Racing. I mean, that's just the way it is. And Dario Franchitti of Chip Ganassi Racing. Speaking of Dario Franchitti and James Hinchcliffe, and then let's bounce over to the NASCAR. They're going to be sharing the NASCAR track, but last week, not excuse me, this was just a one-off race, but it was still kind of interesting to watch, and not something that you'd think. Dario Franchitti jumping in a truck race, and then Hinchcliffe also. I thought they did okay. I mean, they didn't light the world on fire or anything, but I mean, Dario still got it. What are your thoughts about Dario Franchitti getting in the truck with Hinchcliffe as well in the NASCAR series?
I did see that race last weekend, and kudos to both of them. Being out of the racing scene, specifically IndyCar, for as long as they have, and then jumping into one of these NASCAR trucks. I can't imagine what the driving difficulty is between both of them. But I will say, I think Dario got a little bit of a wake-up call, because I did see after the race he got out of the truck and it seemed like he was very exhausted. So I don't know if that's his.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was in shape or what, but I was glad to see he was able to fight through that. But he was definitely exhausted after that race on Saturday.
I saw that he was sitting on the ground, leaned up against the truck, and a lot of people were giving him oxygen. So yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was good that he's doing good. So he's probably going to be happy with his front office gig with Chip Ganassi. Let's talk a little bit about Joseph Newgarden. Obviously, the child prince, if you will, the crown prince of Team Penske. Now that Will Power's gone, and a lot of other changes have happened over there at Penske. Joseph Newgarden, really looked good throughout there in Phoenix. I mean, in St. Pete. I'm sorry. I mean, he marched through the field from 23rd. So Team Penske called it kind of a boring day. But at the same time, you got to look at it. Maybe he's getting his thing started. But Joseph Newgarden, you got to talk about Penske. Will Power's gone now. That's our go-to guy with Penske in a lot of ways before, and now we've got other drivers. But Joseph Newgarden is certainly the face of the organization right now. So he's got to make something happen, and I believe that he will. Joseph Newgarden in 2026. What do you think?
Yeah, he got off to a great start last week in St. Pete. I did notice that he was the Jocelyn's big mover of the race from where he started at to where he finished. And then you look at the starting grid for today; he's right behind his teammate. But I'm gonna make a counterpoint. You're saying that Joseph Newgarden is the face of Team Penske. Why would you not give that to Scott McLaughlin?
Well, Scotty Mack, it's nothing more than tenure of Scotty Mack is also a face. Okay, yeah, and there's certainly that's not a bad label to not be labeled as the face of the organization. I'm just saying, with the history and the length and the tenure that Newgarden has, exceeds that of Scotty Mack. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, why not make him the face of the organization too, right? I mean, in your Penske, you are one of the elite drivers. So who do you pick from, right? But go ahead.
Let's make a comparison and taking away. If you were to take away Joseph's 2 Indy 500 wins. Obviously, we don't want to take those away, but just hypothetically,
those are pretty big takeaways. There,
right? Those are 2 big takeaways. But look at it though. If you take away both of those Borg Warner trophies that Joseph Newgarden has, I think his resume and Scott McLaughlin's resume are almost identical.
Well, and here's the thing, Scotty Max. It's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when. It may even be this year, but he's going to get his Indy 500. But that said, once you become an Indy 500 winner, you become in the elite, and then once you win another, you're in the very much elite. so yes, to that would be the point and the reason of why I would say that Joseph Newgarden is the face of Penske. But that said, Scotty Mack is definitely right there. Maybe we call them twins, twin brothers, if you will. But that'd be exciting to watch that. I want to get one more driver in because we only got just a little bit more time here, and then we got to bounce over to the NFL drop. But Will Power, he was carrying a lot of buzz into the next phase of his career with Andretti Global, but he started off on a rough note, and he struggled in the opening practice where he was met with a crash, and just a lot of things happened with Will Power. He's getting used to new teams, getting used to new crews, he's getting used to a lot of new things. That takes its toll. It's the same thing is, the new crew chiefs getting used to a new driver. They're learning how to work together. I don't see anything to set off alarm bells for Will Power, but he there again is also one of those that's on the back end of his career. And we would like to see him end strong, and you would think that he would end his career with Andretti. But yeah, a little bit of a disappointment. Nothing to push panic buttons about at the moment. But yeah, certainly when you look at all the buzz that was built up from Will Power coming over from Penske to Andretti, a little bit of a letdown.
Tom, I think you hit the nail right on the head. There's a lot of bugs, and if you want to say that, that are still being worked out over there on that number 26 team for Will Power. Got to get used to a new voice in his ear. He's been at Penske for so long,
Yep.
and having the same voice in your ear, and then you switch over to another team where the terminology may be different, so you're starting to learn that. You think about it. Will Power has drove a Chevy powered engine or Chevy powered machine for so long. Now he's switching over to Honda, so I'm sure
Right.
there's difference there too. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work, I think. Just like when a new in any professional league where one player signs with a new team, they may struggle right out of the bat. But when they get their legs under them a little bit and Will Power gets some time with this Honda machine, I think you're going to see the true Will Power.
Derek Vance of the Push to Pass podcast jumping on, talking some IndyCar early in the season. NASCAR and IndyCar on the same track. They did that here in Indy a few years back. That was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So this weekend should be a lot of fun to watch NASCAR and IndyCar. So let me ask you this. I got you on the line here. We do something here on the show every week called the $5 DraftKings bet pick. I want to get your pick for both. Usually we only do one race, but we've got two races going on today. So I want your IndyCar pick for the winner. Or I'll tell you what, you can put it in first, second, or third, whatever you think, whatever you want to do. And then your NASCAR, I'm still getting used to not saying Xfinity, your NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race tonight. Well, who are your $5 DraftKings bets, sir?
Oh, wow. Interesting that because on the Push to Pass podcast, which, Tom, believe it or not, we are switching to Monday nights at 7.
Nice.
So people, it's hard to compete with Tony D over there, man. I'll tell you, him and David Land got something going on over there. But yeah, we're switching to Monday nights 7 p.m. So people that listen to your show, flip over to YouTube, Facebook, and X or Twitter, depending on what generation you grew up in, and you can find us there 7 p.m. Monday nights. But we do a thing too. And it's kind of a who picks, and if your pick gets is the highest finisher, we've done it this year. It's different. You get 1 point. If your pick wins the race, you get a bonus of 5 points. So you could potentially get 6 points per race. So for the IndyCar, which I've already put my pick out for the Push to Pass podcast, I am going with Graham Rahal. So I think he's going to be a little, you know what, in your DraftKings, and here you go. I think he's going to be less chalk today than what people think. So I'm going to go with Graham Rahal. Now you got me. Oh, man, I don't watch much. I watch NASCAR, but I don't watch much of the lower series. But there's a guy that I do like to watch. He is in the Richard Childress. Let's say Ray Childress, Richard Childress camp, and I believe he won the opening race or last week's O'Reilly Parts race. Austin Hill. Let's go Austin Hill this evening.
Austin Hill. Gotcha. All right. Derek Vance, Push Pass Podcast. You basically just told us what you guys are working on, but where can people find your work and masterpieces, sir?
Well, I don't masterpieces. Now you're setting the bar a little too high. But our podcast, myself along with Josh Roberts and Michael Monroe, like we said, 7 p.m. Monday nights. Just changed the platform, so 7 p.m. Monday nights. YouTube, if you just look up Push to Pass Podcast. Facebook, same thing, and then on Twitter or X, depending on what generation you grew up in, do the same thing. Just search Push to Pass Podcast in all three of those platforms. You should be able to find us rather easily. And then also to myself, along with Michael Monroe, we do write for yournews.com. So any recaps of IndyCar races, stories throughout the week, you can go on yournews.com under the auto racing section and find those pieces, as you said, masterpieces there as well.
All right, guys, and we got to wrap it up and put a bow on it. Now, as you know how our system works now, you get to, just like when you're on Hulu or Netflix, you get to pick the next chapter. The very next chapter coming up right after this today on Saturday Drops. Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles and SI.com and our official NFL contributor. We're going to break down, hey, we're going to start looking at teams, what's going on with the draft, and start preparing the teams for that across the NFL. Tomorrow, Sunday Drops, we got Adam Jividan, Super Browns fan, Cavs fan, Guardians fan, Buckeyes fan. Our college football guru is going to hang out with us, and we're going to start putting together our positional rankings for the draft. And we're going to be spending about 45 minutes tomorrow doing that. And then we've got Steve Wilson, editor-in-chief of Speedway Digest, our official NASCAR contributor, breaking down some NASCAR. And as Derek just mentioned, Tony D of the Tony D podcast, Tony Donahue is going to be joining us after the race, IndyCar race, and doing a recap of this week's IndyCar race. Derek, we appreciate you, and thank you so much for taking some time off your Saturday morning. Go out there and do whatever dance we got to do to get this sunshine out, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Tom, thanks for having me. And I think
Yeah.
we'll talk next week. Next weekend, believe it or not, I will be in the sunshine state of Florida on vacation.
Woo-hoo.
So we'll talk next week about the Grand Prix of Arlington going around Jerry's World and Texas Ranger Baseball Stadium.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll talk with you soon.
All right. Bye-bye, Tom.
Bye.